Hello friends. Today, we'll talk about a very important topic in Swift programming, data types. Swift is an amazing programming language that we use for developing macOS, watchOS, tvOS, iOS apps, and even for server-side development. However, if you don't have a clear understanding of data types, your code won't be efficient or error-free. In this video, I'll explain the basics of data types with real-life examples. So, let's get started. First, let's understand what is data. Data refers to any information that a computer can store, process, or transmit. For example, numbers like 10, 50, or -25. Text like a user's name, or even images, sounds, and videos. In programming, we classify this data, and this classification is what we call data types. Now, let's understand what is a data type. A data type defines the format of your data and the operations you can perform on it. For example, if you want to store age, you would use an integer. If your data is in decimal form, like height, you would use a double. And if you want to store a user's name, you would use a string. Using data types helps make our code organized and error-proof. Let's now understand the common data types in Swift, which are integers, floating point numbers, Boolean type, strings, characters. Now, let's explore these one by one with real-time examples to make things clear. Before moving ahead in this video, let's first understand how we store data in Swift. To store any data, we first need to decide whether it's a constant or a variable. A constant is a value that never changes. We declare it using the let keyword. A variable is a value that can change over time. We declare it using the var keyword. Remember the let and var keywords, as we'll use them throughout this video. After this, we have the name or identifier, which allows us to access the stored data in our code. Identifiers are the foundation of programming, and if used correctly, they can make your code efficient and error-free. Rules for naming variables or constants in Swift. When naming a variable or constant in Swift, you must follow these rules to avoid errors and ensure your code is clear and maintainable. An identifier must not contain any white space. Identifiers, names, cannot have spaces between words. Instead, use camel case to separate words. It must not contain any mathematical symbols or arrows. Symbols like plus, minus are not allowed in identifiers as they are reserved for operators and syntax in Swift. It must not start with a number, but it can contain numbers. An identifier cannot begin with a digit, but numbers can appear later in the name. Using a Swift keyword as an identifier is strongly discouraged. But if you do, surround it with backticks. Reserved keywords in Swift, such as class, func, and struct, cannot be used as identifiers unless enclosed in backticks. An identifier must not contain private use or invalid Unicode characters. Swift allows the use of Unicode in identifiers, but characters that are private use or invalid cannot be used. It must not contain line or box drawing characters. Identifiers cannot include line drawing symbols such as dash, pipe, or box corner, since these characters are not valid in Swift. By adhering to these rules, you ensure that your variables and constants are easy to read, understand, and maintain, while avoiding syntax errors in your Swift code. Now, let's move to our main topic, common data types in Swift. The first one is integers. This data type is used for whole numbers, meaning numbers without decimals. Integers are divided into two types. Integer for both positive and negative numbers. Unsigned integer for positive numbers only. When to use? Use integer when storing data like scores or temperature, which can include both positive and negative values. Use unsigned integer when storing quantities like stock counts, which cannot be negative. Code example. Here, score is an integer storing a positive value. Items is an unsigned integer used to store only positive values. Temperature is an integer storing a negative value. By understanding and using integers correctly, you can make your code more precise and error-free. Now, let's talk about floating point numbers, which are used for decimal values. Types of floating point numbers in Swift. Swift provides two types of floating point numbers. Float, a 32-bit floating point number. It uses less memory but has lower precision, accurate up to 6 to 7 decimal digits. Best for cases where memory is limited and high precision isn't critical. Double, a 64-bit floating point number. Offers higher precision, accurate up to 15 to 16 decimal digits. Ideal for complex calculations where accuracy is crucial, like financial or scientific computations. When to use? Swift uses double by default because of its precision. Use float when memory efficiency is more important than precision. Code example. Here, price is a float value, requiring less memory. Total is a double value, offering greater precision. Scientific value demonstrates exponential notation, commonly used in scientific contexts. By understanding when to use float and double, you can optimize both the precision and efficiency of your Swift programs. Now, let's talk about Boolean. A Boolean represents only two values, true or false. Why is it important? Booleans are essential for decision-making in programming. For example, is the user logged in or not? Has the form been submitted? Is the score above a certain threshold? Code example. Here, a SwiftFun is a Boolean variable with the value true. Because it's true, the print statement is executed. Booleans are used to control logic and make decisions in your code, like running specific actions when a condition is met. By using Booleans effectively, you can make your code more dynamic and responsive to different conditions. Now, let's talk about strings, which are used to store text data. Why strings important? Strings in Swift are quite powerful and versatile. They support concatenation, combining multiple strings into one, string interpolation, embedding variables or expressions directly into a string, multi-line strings, defining long text blocks over multiple lines. Code example. Full name is a concatenated string that combines first name and last name with a space in between. Message is an interpolated string where the value of age is directly embedded into the text. Bio is a multi-line string that spans multiple lines, perfect for long texts like descriptions or paragraphs. By leveraging these features, strings in Swift become a robust tool for handling and manipulating text data in your programs. Finally, let's talk about characters. A character represents a single symbol, such as a letter, number, or even an emoji. Code example. Letter is a character that stores a single letter. Emoji is a character storing a Unicode emoji. To extract the first character from a string, you can use the .first property, as shown with first letter. Using characters is ideal when you need to work with individual symbols from text data. So friends, today we covered Swift's common data types: integers, floating point numbers, Booleans, strings, and characters. Using the right data type ensures your code is both safe and efficient. The next time you write Swift code, think about which data type is best suited for your data. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video. Happy coding!